we are. Now we know who's all
You
on
turn it
camera.
back off if you want.
It's easier.
So I mean, at the board meeting, you know, you said bring it to the committee to talk about and then do this. And then I guess Jesse's gonna update the contract and clean up some of the pieces in it, which makes sense. And then if the idea is to tie it to a time frame at the county, which all, in our opinion, also makes sense. All that sounds good, and we just keep moving forward, so.
Question, the total build out of the entire project, how many residential homes?
230.
230, so it's,
We looked at one piece of it that had 39 units in it, and we might do 49 units in that, so that could increase by 10 homes. And then we have a community center in there as well, and a small commercial component of it.
so the question for the, partial, I'm sure will probably be necessary to go back through it as far as for the board, the presentation on the numbers. Clarification on whether the 6140 includes a, number of new homes developed or partial of the phase.
The 6140 is our current number of connections. So that's how that came about. And actually the ops report it fluctuates a little bit, but I will make sure when we go to the board that all the numbers are consistent at that snapshot in time, as well as your development numbers. I think I used 229, not 230. And the first phase we used 70 in the math, and I'm not sure first phase what exactly are
72.
72. Okay, so I do need to clean up a few numbers.
Yeah, so that,
And you're correct on the 229, it's just easier to go 230.
Oh, okay. Hey, I always feel like it's good to be precise until you don't need to be. So I'll start off with 229, and then if we round it, we round it.
Director Ring, do you have any questions or?
Yeah, as a matter of fact, I do. I guess my first question is, are we far and beyond this ever going to Jamestown Sanitary District?
I learned a little while ago, not very long ago, to never say never. But yeah, I don't see a practical way to get to Jamestown to take this flow versus TD.
That way makes way more common sense than what's being proposed and worked towards. LAFCO made that change originally, and then it got changed back, I guess.
Well,
Can I just go ahead?
let me see if I can clarify first. So I probably should have said this. I said this at the board meeting, but the Valley Vista subdivision and whatever subdivision was before it was called Valley Vista is in TD service, sewer service area.
Right.
At some point, one of the two developers decided, they made a decision that they'd rather pump the sewer to Jamestown, JSD, versus all the way to TD, a little bit closer to a push. So there was a process that was started with Valley Vista and LAFCO to annex that Valley Vista into JSD service area. There was some, I don't know if there was ever a will serve letter from JSD, and I don't want to get into your legal businesses, either one of you really, but I don't know if there was or wasn't a will serve from JSD to Valley Vista. Initially, it must have been agreed upon that JSD had the capacity to serve Valley Vista. Otherwise, I don't see why Valley Vista would have went through the process of annexing into JSD service area. Some way through that, I guess before the annexation actually happened, Jamestown said, in fact, we don't have capacity, sorry JSD, see if TDD can take your flow, and here we are.
JSD initially provided us a capacity of the plant of 442 ESFRs in that. So while we were going through the process, we were tracking permits that were going on in Jamestown to see what that number was going down, and it was approximately 10 homes per year at the most. So we worked with their engineer, who was Blackwater. We designed the system to tie into the manhole that was right across from the boulders. There's a sewer line that runs right through the boulders that had the adequate capacity to tie in. We designed that lift station and everything else to tie in. I spent about $60,000 in engineering fees to design the system, working with Blackwater to tie into that. With those drawings, we then went to LAFCO to annex into the Jamestown sanitary system. That took about a year. At the time, the LAFCO process was not very quick with the county. We got approval from LAFCO to annex into the Jamestown system to change their sphere of influence into a service district with that. About a week after we got approved by LAFCO to then move forward with completing the paperwork, because Jamestown Sanitary said until we were annexed into the LAFCO system, rely on the document that had the 442, but they wouldn't give us a well-served letter until we had completed that and then met the specifications of the plans. About a week after that, I got a letter from Jamestown Sanitary that said, we made a mistake. We only have about 80 ESFRs, which obviously doesn't handle 229 connections, so there's no way we could have gone forward and put our construction financing in place with only 1/3 of the processes of the capacity. And they said, at the time, the plant was supposedly plug and play, kind of expandable, which I guess now we've determined that it's not quite plug and play expandable. But our question was, okay, if you were going to expand the plant, how long would that take? What would the cost be and everything else? And they're like, we don't know, but I guess you could sit down and write us a big check, we could figure that out. Well, sitting down to write somebody a big check when you're trying to put your construction financing together, when there's no idea of what that cost or the time frame associated with it, didn't work for the project. So that's when we sat down and talked to TUD with you guys looking to expand your plant up there. In reality, it was more engineering to, go all the way down Golf Links Road across and tie into the Mill Villa, but that was our only option. And we never completed the documentation with the LAFCO process to tie into it. So basically that, initial approval simply expired while we put the contract in place with TUD.
So, I was following this fairly close as I could, most of it through the newspaper and things like that. So everything that I've heard here sounds what I remember, just with more detail. I was against this from the very beginning, but I voted for it because the board was told, oh, we just have to do this. We just have to do it. It's the only thing. We just have to do it. So here's what I've always felt is a real problem for the ratepayers of TUD. TUD is going to inherit about, I don't know whether it is full 2 miles, but I know it's over a mile of pipe, which is going across under Highway 108, which is not desirable, and 2 lift stations, maintenance forever. Maintenance forever. Pumps, valves, etc. All of that is pumped uphill. Electricity to pump uphill twice into perpetuity. And electricity isn't going down anytime soon that I know of, so that's a real issue as far as I'm concerned. If we have a main line break anywhere near the bottom, anybody want to say brownout? I don't, how's that going to get taken care of? At the units that are being sold, Of course, things have changed since COVID and all that, but originally, the ones that I heard about were being taken, a lot of them were coming from Sonora Hills. Most of those people are retired, usually older, and so what, if anything, is going to be taking care of the huge amount of wipes and other stuff that's gonna end up at that lower pump station. Then we have the inspections to install. I know that there's been somebody hired that's been out there to do it, but I don't feel good about it. It's the same thing I said about the water. I would much rather have had TUD inspector there inspecting it. I don't have a lot of confidence in how that's come down, but that's just my opinion. And then I read through that contract and I thought it was pretty crappy. So I asked our counsel, Barton, and I thought he was gonna come unglued when I asked if he had written it. And he said, absolutely, positively not, I did not write it. So I'm saying, I think we need to go back to square one. I think we need to have him either write an entire new contract or completely go through the one that's existing and straighten it up. And then take into consideration these other things that I brought up. I had heard, even though I can't prove it, but after we voted for that, for us to accept this, that, and maybe you know more about this than I, well, you would, that much of the staff that heard anything about this before the board voted on it was saying, no, don't do that. We don't want to take that on. No, don't do it. So I don't know. I don't have a good feeling about this at all. I'm not saying if we're in a position where we have to take it on, that's fine. I'm not against development at all. Matter of fact, I think this specific development, I'm not grading it on how it's being done or anything else, because that's not my position. But it's basically a poster child for infill. So it's a good, viable development, and it deserves to go forward. But I don't think the ratepayers need to subsidize it. So I'll leave it at that. That's my thoughts.
Director Ringen brought up a couple of points. If at some point in time Jamestown Sanitary District improves and then has the capacity to take on the flow of this project in the interest of, a greener path forward and a carbon footprint reduction, I do feel that that would be a good idea to turn, that rate base, customer base over to them. That would then reduce the amount being pumped up to Sonora Regional, and the pumping cost incurred at Melvilla. Now, we just recently did a rehabilitation and improvement project at Melvilla. Specifically, was a surge protection improved at that point in time to control the pumps on and off?
Surge protection,
The ramp up on the drives.
the drives.
Ramp up and ramp down via the drive control. That's as good surge protection as any, is to ease on the accelerator and ease off of the accelerator, during shutdown. So, because, that's always a concern. Anywhere down in that area, a force main break would immediately cause sanitary sewer overflow to surface waters, related to the Woods Creek drainage. The question I would have for Jesse is, is this so far along that, basically the ball is rolling? I don't know that there's any legal path to, throw the brakes on an agreement that was agreed to. Director Ring, you are correct. I said in the beginning that, when I heard about Valley Vista, that it made absolutely no sense to pump it across and pump it uphill, at an increased cost. And with the way the district has changed, a financial position of a wastewater customer is a wastewater customer, whether they go through 3 pump stations or they go through a gravity line to the treatment plant. It's all the same and equal, so. But like I said, as far as the agreement with Valley Vista, certainly be welcome to bring it up. And I don't know if Mr. Barton will be available at the meeting that this then goes before the board to, is that what
We can make it so.
can answer the question as to whether the document can be reopened or, just moves forward. Certainly I understand from the developer side that there's substantial cost. I don't know, where are you at with construction for the infrastructure for the wastewater side?
All the lines in the site have been installed, and we bought all the equipment for the lift station building, and we're ready to, we have the generator sitting in the garage. It's about as big as this table. And, we're ready to go build the building.
And in relation to first customers coming online with infrastructure, is that
Probably
pretty close to the same date?
first quarter of next year.
So.
And as far as the agreement goes, we'd like to see it cleaned up as well. It was the agreement, we were provided, and, we didn't see a big issue with it. To tell you the truth, I forgot that there was a 2-year time frame in it, because that was the original water agreement that had the 2 years, and, that didn't seem insurmountable. But then you had COVID and all these other things that came on board, and it just, became, an workable time frame. The sewer part of it was, the addendum was added 6 months later, so it was really then into an 18-month time frame, and it just, with all the issues that came up, plus two very wet winters in that time frame also, slowed us down quite a bit.
Any other discussion, comments?
No, I have no more questions or comments, and then do you have a clear recommendation?
He hasn't given it to me.
Oh, yeah.
I need a committee recommendation.
You want this to come back up before the board? Discussion on cleaning up the contract is, there seems to be some interest on the developer side as well too, to clean up certain aspects of it.
Yeah, I think that would be a very definite thing that should be done, and then I would think that some of the issues that I brought up, not some, but all of them should be brought up as that gets reviewed, and instead of having a contract that is put together by I'll be nice, a past GM, that staff be involved in it so that it makes sense for the TUV ratepayer.
So similar to the water recommendation, you want staff and Jesse to work to put together fits everybody, makes sense. And you want all of those on the sewer side of the discussion, with all those points addressed.
Correct.
With Jesse's involvement.
And staff.
And staff. So do you want that recommendation to come back to this committee, or do you want a draft agreement that's been worked through staff and Jesse to go directly to the board?
Well, that's gonna be between the two of us.
Well, you brought up some concerns. I'm trying to remember and piece back together, and then maybe you can go through your concerns real, just kind of summarize without a.
Well, I'm concerned about the fact that we're inheriting so much pipe, and especially the fact that it goes under Highway 108 with 2 lift stations, and that our ratepayers have to maintain that forever from here on out. And to me, that's, you know, that much normal, just gravity fed or something like that, or just a short distance of pumping is acceptable, but that's, everything on that system is gonna be stressed. So,
Okay.
you know, it needs to be all top end and installed absolutely perfectly. And God help us if something goes wrong, because then that means that we have to get into Highway 108 in order to repair it. And who knows what that's, I mean, look what he just said about what he's going through just to make it happen the first time around. So that's one. And then the fact that it's all uphill pumped.
Can I clarify one point on that, Ron?
Yeah.
There's a slight hill that it's going over, then the rest of it is downhill from there, but it is under pressure, so you're correct on that point. Once it gets to Millville, then it's uphill from there.
And like I said, if there's a break in the line at the lower end, how is that gonna get, you know, rectified? What do we have as a way to remediate that? Then I'm concerned about the fact that it's probably gonna have a lot of folks my age or older in there, wipes in the pipes. What's gonna happen with the pump station down there? We know what we've been fighting already throughout the system. I'm concerned about the inspections not being actually TUD by TUD people. And then of course, then we get back to the contract itself.
Okay. Those last 2 items you have there, those definitely, you know, it seemed like something we can address in the contract. The first several, and I concerns, totally agree, but actually gotta rely on Eric for the engineering across the highway, the pump line, you know, the responsibility of building a robust system or providing specifications for a robust system to handle the wipes, to handle the pressures, to have the maximum long life cycle out of the project. Kind of, that all drops into engineering, but the last, yeah.
I get it, and I agree with what you're saying, but you need to get in the Wayback Machine and remember who was the GM at the time, what the issues were at that time, and how little the board was given as far as information. We were given the bare minimum. I would have never voted for this back then if I knew what I knew today. And I kept checking into this as right after the vote, and I just kept finding out one thing right after the other that concerned me. So whether or not engineering did what they needed to do under the GM we had at the time, I don't know.
Yeah.
I don't know.
So with Eric and specifications.
It was just premature. It was the board making a decision on whether to do an amendment to the development agreement. It wasn't until after that, and quite honestly, after general manager had departed, where we were reviewing plans designed by the developer's engineer and making sure they met specifications. So that process is complete. We feel good. The inspection, I totally understand your concern and wanting to make sure that TUD person's doing that inspection. But as far as the design,
It's all on the ground now.
well, the force main is not,
Yeah.
and the crossing of the highway is not, and a sleeve is what we expect to see crossing the highway, which would allow TUD with spacers to remove that pipe if we needed to and not have to go back in the highway and dig it up. Also, that sleeve would allow, if there's a rupture, you could see it flowing out of the end of the casing. So there's things there that we would incorporate into the design that would protect the district.
What about a breakdown Gulf Club Drive?
Well, I mean, that would be treated just like every other force main that we have. You know, if there's a break or.
But you got a mile uphill pipe, what goes up must come down.
That's very true. Yeah, there's isolation valves, there's airbags.
All
There's a way to drain it.
all those are in the plan.
Yes.
And wipes in the pipes, a grinder down at the,
It is a pump that Rich feels comfortable using. I don't want to speak for you, Rich, that can handle that, but you know, we're not planning on putting a screen at that site. We're pretty confident we can handle.
and so when it doesn't work, then we get to do it the right way the second time. At
Well,
ratepayer expense.
I'm hoping it's gonna work. And I understand that doesn't mean anything to you,
I've been in
but
construction a long time, and hoping it's gonna work has never worked when on anything I know.
We're confident it's gonna work.
I know that you don't have a lot of trust, but unfortunately, this is our job. This is what we do. We run 29 lift stations here at the district. Wipes are an issue, but the first thing to deal with wipes is to educate the people that are out there using them. So we have elderly people throughout our district that are using wipes, and we're managing the system right now.
I think it's more than elderly people using it.
Well, but that was his point, though.
I know, but I'm just tired of talking about elderly people. People use wipes.
Sure,
I know the very young people.
Is this age restricted? This is not an age restricted.
No, I know it isn't. It started out kind of like that, but no, it is not age restricted, I understand.
Yeah, and I'm not trying to diminish any of the comments and concerns you have. It's just from a helicopter view looking down, you know, versus being, I was certainly gonna ask if it was sleeved across the highway, because that's the, you know, a great idea that prevents future, you know, nope, we got a force main break in the middle of Highway 108, we're gonna shut down traffic going to Dodge Ridge or, you know, recreational community. And certainly wipes in the pipes are a big deal. I would certainly, you know, 230 connections. If I was in Rich's seat, I would be, hey, you know, that seems to be at a level of a debris removal process at the lift station, preventing, you know, stuff in the force main, stuff further up in the collection system. And, you know, that I've always been a proponent of that, you know, certainly for Willow Springs and looking at Parrott's Ferry, these different things where we can change it to just a liquid in the pipe, which is much easier on the transport and plugging problems. But that too far in the weeds for a board member, sorry.
Director Boatright, if it helps you at all, the water committee recommendation was for this item to return to the board with a new developer agreement drafted by staff and the district's legal counsel that will establish a new term for performance, warranty period, and inspection by district staff. Also, Director Ringen stated that the agreement should cover all phases of the project. That's the recommendation by the water committee.
But, yeah, and does that sound kosher for, did you want to add anything to that?
No, I brought these things up as examples of what concerns me, and just that I would hope that engineering has included or will include in the final product.
Yeah, and it certainly seems like we'll be, you know, coming up with a new agreement to move forward with the project.
That would be fine.
So can I have your notes, or please make a copy of those for you?
Let's see, storm protection.
Is there a planned video inspection of the sewer pipe?
I've got one more time on
Is there a planned video inspection of the sewer pipe before acceptance?
Yeah.
I
Just,
believe
That's
that's
why we
part of,
haven't accepted any yet.
okay,
part of
Water test and also video.
Yeah, doesn't the standard still include a mandrel as well as a video, or?
It
is a
does.
function?
It does, but the mandrel is quite honestly not as important as the water test, just to make sure there's no bellies in that line. And also to make sure there's no debris, construction debris in there. We haven't accepted any of the lines that have been installed yet. We've inspected them, but we have not video.
There's also a 12-month guarantee backed by the developer or construction.
In the current development agreement, I think the warranty period is 1 or 2 years? 2 years.
2 years.
Warranty period. And so if we execute a new agreement, we would probably there's a lot of opportunities to put in a warranty, to put in a warranty bond, maintenance bond. There's a bunch of different things that I think we'll let Jesse run lead on developing the agreement, but he can incorporate those in and we can feed Jesse some other ideas related to warranty.
Yeah,
Security.
and certainly for the warranty for gravity line, 2 years of settling time, to make sure that there's no bellies.
I'm gonna be there for at least 2 years, finishing up the rest of the housing, so I'm not going anywhere.
Yeah, the warranty period, typically wouldn't start until after, it's accepted, so.
I understand.
And moving forward.
All of this can be alleviated by just turning the pipe from this direction to that direction, JSD. Period.
take note.
That,
We're here 4 years later and JSD's still in a moratorium, so I wouldn't be moving forward with this project at all. So unfortunately, that's not something I can control.
I'll make copies first.
and
I asked.
not to speculate or,
I'm with you.
I don't
I
think
have all of them written
Jamestown
down,
is
Ron, and I will give it back to you. That's
currently working towards, the alleviation or opening up new capacity on the treatment plant. So
It's always a topic.
that's always done.
Director Boatright definitely has a comment.
Well, that's the only reason why we're here is because I guess it came up possibility that if on JSD's capacity issue, that this project could gravity flow to us.
That would actually, for this project, and certainly, we thank you for, the opportunity to at least look at that, as a, possible, alleviating some of the moratorium issue in Jamestown. Unfortunately, this project in particular is too far up
Well, it wasn't my
in,
idea, I'm just
in
saying,
elevation that,
I guess paid for it.
That would be a long pipe.
that would certainly be a long pipe going from,
Yeah.
Mount
It would
Villa
be
Drive.
all in highway
Gulf
right
Ranch.
away.
Well,
It
again,
would be
this was,
really
this,
fun to
this was
work
not
with.
our idea,
Yeah.
so that's why we wanted to.
Yeah, I think that we should talk offline because that wasn't the idea that I had, but,
Yeah, with this particular project, that pipeline is just way too long and too far away, whereas certain infills in and around, that lower end of Jamestown, might be something to, they can possibly work out, but a lot of details to go through.
I wouldn't attempt that at all.
Well, I know there's a number of other projects in Jamestown that could move forward if Jamestown Sanitary has some additional capacity, so it would be good to, I would encourage them to get that worked out, and it would be great. Okay,
Yeah,
I appreciate your time.
certainly would be interested in participating in the conversation for that, but it would take a lot of Jamestown's input, so, and I don't have that, so.
Well, thank you for your time. If there's
Thank
no
you.
additional questions, then. I'll
Thank
look forward
you
to
all for
working with
coming.
Don and Eric on their additional input based on your comments. Thank you.
Thank you.